Honourable.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the member for Chaguanas West gave a very brave attempt at a bramble. I say that with the most deference to my colleague. The Honourable member certainly touched upon the law, in essence setting up the argument that this law is not acceptable to the opposition. In summary, the positions offered by my learned friend are that the science is not with it. And if we look to that, Madam Speaker, I'd like to ask, in light of the policy paper produced by the Law Reform Commission, which looked at the introduction of lie detector tests, drug tests, and biometric identification within the protective services and certain departments of the public services, if the science is not with us, and if we have fair and independent courts in not only Trinidad and Tobago, but in other jurisdictions, I'd like to understand why a law such as the one that we propose today, this miscellaneous provisions law, is acceptable in so many other jurisdictions. Because, Madam Speaker, the United Kingdom operates upon the very systems that we're proposing today with massive latitude. The United States of America with massive latitude, Madam Speaker. When we look to the laws of Australia, we look to the laws of Canada, we look to the laws of South Africa, Madam Speaker, I find it incredible to watch court after court in all of these Commonwealth countries consistently consider the issue of biometrics, drug testing, and lie detectors as constitutionally required in a society such as their societies. Now, Madam Speaker, the fact is the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the police service regulations already provide for the use of drug testing, the collection of certain biometric information, in that case physical features and also fingerprinting, etc. We do have the ability to collect DNA evidence for protective services under the DNA Act, and we allow for the provision of lie detectors. So the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago already contemplate use of this, and there has been no striking down of those provisions. None. The 2007 regulations for the police service, Madam Speaker, we are now in 2022. We know that the police service has for entry requirements the use of these techniques that we propose today. And we know, Madam Speaker, that we can introduce it as a term and condition for new entrants, not only coming into, but entrance into specialist divisions. In other words, then, you can decide what the key to open the door to a job looks like. But, Madam Speaker, we are within constitutional clear understanding that our laws, as interpreted by the courts, and I want to refer to a particular case in Barbados, that is the case of King versus the AG of Barbados, 1994. It's a case at the Privy Council, UKPC at 14, where it is an absolute certainty that the state can alter public service terms and conditions. I want to bear in mind, we are not today proposing the introduction of these techniques to any of the office holders who are subject to Section 136 of the Constitution, because those office holders have constitutionally entrenched terms and conditions. But today, Madam Speaker, we are being invited to consider the proportionality, the constitutionality of the laws that we seek in these 9 clauses of the bill, when we look from clauses 3 to 9, 6 clauses, we traverse the following areas. Law officers, i.e. attorneys at law, at the Judicial and Legal Services cover. That's chapter 601. The law officers that we're looking at there include officers at the Customs and Excise Division, the Board of Inland Revenue, and the Immigration Division. We're looking at the Prison Service, Madam Speaker, chapter 1302. We're looking at the Defense Act. We're looking at the Police Service Act, chapter 1501. We're looking at the Fire Services Act, chapter 3550. We're looking at the Civil Service Act, chapter 2301, and the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, chapter 7201. But Madam Speaker, in looking at the issue of constitutionality, the first thing is there a legitimate aim to this law? The legitimate aim to this law is, number one, to capture biometric information. Why? Madam Speaker, I'll come to that in a short context. But biometric information, be it facial recognition, geometrical handprint information, fingerprint information, iris scan information, is for the purpose of identifying who in today's modern world may or may not be involved in evidence captured by CCTV cameras or other techniques. 2, we are looking at drug testing, where there's an occupational health and safety requirement, where there are all sorts of our laws which say that you must operate a healthy and safe system and protect others. 3, we're looking at the issue of lie detection. Now, Madam Speaker, we treat the people in the protective services slightly differently from those in the public service, because the Civil Service Act, the FIUTT, and also the JLSC, we say that they can only be subjected to this law while on duty. The protective services, fire, defense force, police, we say that they must be in the course of being treated whilst on or off duty. The purpose of this law, the legitimate aim, is to narrow the gates in relation to a very narrow basket of matters, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to know, in the face of all of the many jurisdictions that have these very laws, as I've identified some of them, I'd like to know, Madam Speaker, if the opposition does not consider it important to have top secret information managed by people who are trustworthy, if the opposition thinks it inappropriate for people who are the subject of espionage or people who are the subject of money laundering accusations to not be subjected to detection tests. I'd like to know if the opposition thinks it unreasonable for people involved in misconduct of duties, for people involved in the proximity of dangerous drug matters, anti-terrorism matters, trafficking in persons matters, to be so far out of the realm of rationality that we as a serious republic in this world cannot today do like other countries do and say, we too deserve first world protection. We too deserve to have people subjected to the law, because to whom great power is given, much responsibility and expectation is to be had, Madam Speaker. And we think it materially important to bear in mind that serious matters, and if you look to the defense force, the police service, and you look to the fire services, and we look to subsections 2 in each of those acts as we put them in irrelevant positions, and we get down to the letter H, we're talking about, Madam Speaker, serious incident means an accident resulting in the death of or injury to a person, damage or destruction of property or environmental risk, any risk of death, injury, damage, destruction, and harm. And when we go, Madam Speaker, into the fact that we are looking specifically where a person is killed or injured as a result of the discharge of a firearm by the officer, or the use of physical force by the officer, or while in lawful detention or custody. Madam Speaker, what could be more important to the country, to Trinidad and Tobago, to know that officers who are in service, law enforcement officers, are also subjected to the highest standard of scrutiny in relation to matters such as these? Madam Speaker, we have had people marching up and down Trinidad and Tobago. We've even had members of the opposition participating in marches themselves, where the cries come out as to whether there is a fair scrutiny and due process to law enforcement being subjected to a higher standard. Because, Madam Speaker, you have a sense of safety afoot. And Madam Speaker, when we talk about proportionality, Madam Speaker, what we say in this is that we are limiting it in the civil service side, that is the civil service, the JLSC and the FIUTT, to while you're on duty. In the protective services side, the fire services, the defense force, the Trinidad and Tobago police service, while you're on duty or off duty. But Madam Speaker, is there or is there not an argument that people who are involved in trafficking in persons ought to be subjected to the kind of scrutiny that we're recommending, and that other countries also apply? Madam Speaker, is it good enough that the FBI is viewed to be a successful entity, the CIA, SO15 in the United Kingdom, MI5, MI6 in the United Kingdom, but in Trinidad and Tobago, we can't have, because the opposition holds the key to this, the ability to use polygraphing, other lie detection tests, drug testing, or biometric data? Why, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, we have included the Registrar General, which falls under the Office of the Attorney General, into this mix. The Registrar General, by virtue of Act number 12 of 2020, is now responsible for the Real Estate Agents Act. By virtue of Act number 17 of 2020 is the Miscellaneous Deeds, Registration of Deeds Act. The Miscellaneous Provisions, Tax Amnesty, Pension, etc. Act 2019, Valuation of Land Act, Property Tax Act, Registration of Title to Land Act, State Suits Limitation Act, State Land Tribunal, Land Adjudication, Miscellaneous Provisions, all of the package of laws that we passed in the period 2016 to 2020 put the legal officers of the Registrar General, falling under the office of the AG, into direct responsibility to manage the records of Trinidad and Tobago, where we have also mandated, if you look to the Non-Profit Organization Act, or you look to the Real Estate Agents Act, that sensitive private information has to be considered and kept at the Registrar General's office. The Financial Intelligence Unit is also similarly circumstanced. And therefore, Madam Speaker, when we're looking to the issue of proportionality, we have targeted the points to receive this law down to the narrowest parameters possible. And therefore, we begin to satisfy the three-limb tests of constitutionality, be it de Freitas, be it any one of the leading cases, RV Oaks, whichever way you want to go. There are umpteen cases on proportionality in Northern Construction in our own Court of Appeal. But, Madam Speaker, the legitimate aim finds itself rationally connected by saying you cannot be the repository of sensitive and secret information where one missing document can result in the difference between innocence or guilt, whichever way you want to look at it, and not have responsibility. Now, Madam Speaker, we accept that this law traverses the right to private life. We accept that this law traverses the obligations that we're looking at to self-protection of law, be it in Section 4B of the Constitution or private life in 4C. The equality of treatment in 4D is touched upon. The right against self-incrimination, Section 5.2D of the Constitution, they are all traversed. The question is, are we going too far? So in answer to that, Madam Speaker, and in underwriting the constitutionality, I say we are narrow in focus. We are treating with sensitive, top secret information. We're treating with trafficking in persons. We're treating with dangerous drugs. We're treating with anti-terrorism. We don't go for every matter, Madam Speaker. In it, we say that the results are confidential in every one of the clauses. We say they are exempt from freedom of information, Madam Speaker. If you look to a very recent decision coming out of the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, Bloomberg versus ZXC, and that was a case 2022 delivered just a couple days ago, the 16th of February 2022. When you look at what the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom balanced in considering Article 8 and Article 10 of the European Court of Human Rights context of the European Charter, and saying that there's a balancing act between private life and a balancing act between freedom of expression. When you looked at the fulminations of that court, it was quite interesting to note that underwriting the constitutionality of the bill today, we also have the newfound tort of abuse of private information. But Madam Speaker, when you go down to the fact, who in this country could really tell us that money laundering is not the route to criminality? Why would the opposition, again, for the umpteenth time, refuse to support a law that tackles money laundering? What is it? Who is it in the opposition bench that has a problem with trafficking in persons, where we have seen the abuse of young women, in particular vulnerable persons in the context of Latin American young women and children being abused, Madam Speaker, in trafficking in person? Why would the opposition stand against a fighting chance to stop the abuse of the vulnerable in trafficking in persons? Madam Speaker, anti-terrorism. Who could say that Trinidad and Tobago didn't have an issue in the public domain trumpeted by the opposition in relation to contributors in the fight that ISIS took to the world? That unholy and improper pursuit, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, why would it be outside of the contemplation of Chaguanas West to say that it's good enough for the United Kingdom, for Canada, for New Zealand, for South Africa, Madam Speaker, for the police service in our regulations right here? Why is it good enough for everybody else except the UNC? Why? You see, Madam Speaker, they make this academic and otherwise large charade that they will support laws. But Madam Speaker, today this law can't pass if there's no opposition support. Today the people of Trinidad and Tobago cannot get another tool in the arsenal to fight the war against trafficking in persons, money laundering, to deal with anti-terrorism, Madam Speaker, to deal with the Dangerous Drugs Act. These are the same honourable members that stand up and say Trinidad and Tobago is a dangerous place. These are the same honourable members who today can support a position, an intellectual position, to say, let's give all people on charges of murder the right to bail, but when we're in government, we won't do it. Madam Speaker, how do you take an opposition such as the honourable members opposite seriously, Madam Speaker? How do we genuinely say that Trinidad and Tobago is pushing its way forward? Madam Speaker, all of the clauses here say that the head of a department can direct, order an officer under the various acts that we're looking at to be subjected to biometric, to drug testing, and to polygraphing. What could be wrong with biometrics? What could be wrong with drug testing? Okay, you have a problem with telling the truth tests, lie detector tests. We say that it is to be confidential, but I'm asking, what is the odium here? This law does not accept the right against self-incrimination or the right to remain silent. We do not accept the right against self-incrimination here. If an officer says no, what is the consequence? It falls to due process. It falls to disciplinary matter. It falls to consideration as to whether there is a breach or not, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, what could be objectionable in relation to the very narrow purport of top secret information, information concerning the records of Trinidad and Tobago, national security interests, Madam Speaker. What could be wrong in ensuring that the highest form of vetting is provided there?
Is now spent.
I thought you'd give me a 5-minute warning. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Caroni Central.